So my name is Marek. I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders of Celo. And as we just heard, we're going to be talking about building mobile-first dApps today. And I'm going to start with something a little controversial, maybe not. I'm going to argue that dApps today are simply broken. And I'm going to argue that for a number of reasons. So number one, they require plugins. If you want to use a dApp today, you have to install MetaMask or a whole slew of other plugins. Maybe you have to install a new browser on your mobile phone. Or worse yet, trust a third party to custody your keys and provide an API to your dApp. And second, it's hard to argue that they're really reaching the masses right now. I was looking just the other day on Dapp Radar, and the number, I think 2 dApps had less than or had around 2,000 active daily users. I think compared to the Web 2 world, those numbers are very, very small. And then if you go down the list, if you reach, I think, number 10, you're already at 400 daily active users. Again, compared to the Web 2 world, these are really small numbers. And then finally, and this is the part that really hurts me the most, they're not really censorship resistant. They're called decentralized applications, but they rely on these centralized gateways to these decentralized protocols, which makes them really susceptible to censorship. And so they're not really decentralized. Now, the good news is mobile will save us. And I think that for a number of reasons. So number one, no plugins required. If you build your own native app on a mobile phone, you can do pretty much anything. These things are very programmable. You can connect to the decentralized network. You don't need to rely on a third-party plugin. And number two, this is where the people are. I was just looking at a mobility report from Ericsson that was just released a little bit, just a month ago, actually. And they were showing that by next year, there will be 6 billion active smartphones connected to the internet. That is a staggering amount of devices. And this is not phones, these are smartphones. And finally, they can be like client friendly. So you can program your mobile apps in a number of different languages, which makes it easy to integrate like clients so that they can connect in a fully trustless manner to your decentralized protocols and not require, again, those plugins and actually be censorship resistant. And so the future is mobile, fortunately, and so this is coming. Again, I mentioned that stat, 6 billion smartphones by 2020. This is sourced from Ericsson's annual mobility report. And there are other reports that are also counting the number of unique individuals with smartphones. They're showing that the $6 billion count will hit in the next 4 years. Again, these are staggering numbers. And I think 3 years ago now, the amount of traffic that came from smartphones exceeded the amount of traffic coming from desktops and notebook computers. This happened 3 years ago, and mobile continues to gain more and more dominance over desktop and notebook traffic. And I think probably the most funny thing about all of this is that Web 2 has gone mobile first, I think, starting 9 years ago. So 9 years ago, a person named Luke Mobilefirst started going around and telling everyone, hey, mobile is coming. We need to get ready for it. We need to start designing mobile first. He wrote a very famous book about this. And then a lot of people listened. A lot of companies developing web apps for the Web 2.0. They started going mobile first. So they started literally designing their applications for mobile before they even thought about what it looked like on desktop. And actually, there's a lot of benefits if you read the book about why you might want to do that. And so it seems a little ironic to me that Web 3.0, which is supposed to be the evolution of Web 2, is somehow so far behind Web 2 in this one really, really key manner. And so I would like us to lead in this way, to really show the rest of the world that we actually are the future and that we can figure this out. And so when I talk to people at events like this, I instantly get pushed back. Yeah, but I'm building for myself, I'm building for my friends. We all have notebooks, shiny MacBook Pros. I'm not really interested in mobile. That would mean I'd have to learn a new platform. And yeah, it's true. If you look at Europe and North America, people do have notebook and desktop devices. And you can definitely build products for these people. But if you look at that same mobility report from Ericsson, and you look at how mobile traffic is going to grow over the next 5 years, these are some pretty impressive numbers. So in the next 5 years, mobile traffic will go multiply by 3x, which is a huge number. So this is showing the number of exabytes per month that will be created from smartphones. And I think what's probably more interesting here is the breakdown by continent. So if you look at 2024, if you look at the fraction of mobile traffic that will be generated by Europe and North America, it will add up to around 13%. So what I'd like to encourage everyone in this room to do is to start thinking about the other 87%. Those people are on mobile, they don't have those shiny MacBook Pros, and it's a big, big opportunity. And so how do we build Dapps for? So I think hopefully you agree with me by now that really the future is mobile and that we need to start thinking mobile first. Dapps need to start thinking mobile first. And to get there, I'd also like to argue that Dapps need to be more than just web apps that run inside your Dapp browser. They need to be native apps. So for one, this matches existing behavior. I think for most users, I don't think they really care or even need to know that they're running a Dapp. They would just like to install an app just like they install any other app and use it for whatever purpose they need. And so by making these Dapps native apps, you will be matching existing behaviors, which again opens you up to a bigger user base. They're also easier to discover. People are trained now to go to their app stores and look for new apps. And these app stores actually go to great lengths to highlight good and interesting new apps. And so by not building a native app, you are missing out on a really great marketing opportunity for yourselves. By burying your app inside another level of indirection where you have to install one app to then discover your actual Dapp, you're making it so much harder for people to find your actual application. And finally, native apps are delivered efficiently to people's mobile devices. They're cached there, they're stored efficiently, and they are updated efficiently. So if you have a mobile app that needs to be updated, you can configure your app store to only update it if you have Wi-Fi. This is much better for people who are living in data-constrained environments. And so do them a service, use a native app. Don't make them re-download your web app every time they visit it. And so I think now the next question is, well, how do you build these native Dapps? Maybe you're a web developer, maybe you've been using React on web apps for most of your life, and you're comfortable with the Dapp ecosystem there. How do I go and make this transition? And so fortunately, there is a project named Celo that can help you with that. And so what is Celo? Celo is an open platform that makes financial tools accessible for anyone with a mobile phone. And it has a number of features that I think you might appreciate. Number one, it's fully programmable. So Celo is, we started it 2 years ago, and we decided to build on the community's best work, which of course is Ethereum. And so Celo is fully EVM compatible. And so if you have a Dapp today, or if you have that you've written, or you have a favorite Dapp that you like, and if you have any developer tools that you really, really like, all these are fully compatible with Celo. And number two, Since Celo is a next generation blockchain, it's running a proof of stake protocol that uses stake to elect 100 validators who then perform PBFT consensus. And that's really important because in the context of a DApp, you may want finality. And so one of the nice things about PBFT consensus is that it gives you one block finality. And that means that in your UX, as you're building your UX, you never have to worry about a case where suddenly a chain reorg will roll back whatever you've shown your user to be true. Whatever they see will always be final. And I think perhaps more interestingly and more importantly, this proof of stake protocol allows for a very efficient like client protocol. And so at Celo, we've worked really hard to make the like client protocol use just only a little bit of data in order to sync, while still remaining fully permissionless, fully trustless, and censorship resistant. And it does so using a number of new innovations. Number one, epoch-based syncing, which gives a roughly 17,000 times reduction in the amount of data that you need to download as a like client. BLS signature aggregation, which leads to another 90% reduction in data. And then finally, we're also using ZK snarks based zero-knowledge proofs to prove that headers are in fact part of the chain. And this allows like clients to simply consume these proofs and verify them cheaply so that they can quickly get synced without having to download much data. And so I just zipped through these. It's not really the purpose of this talk to go through them, but if you are interested, please do check out the recording of my Web3 talk from earlier this week. That talk goes into a lot more details. It's not on YouTube yet, but it should be hopefully soon. Now, Celo also has a few other useful features. Number one, it has a lightweight identity protocol, which maps hashes of phone numbers to public keys. And so as a Dapp developer, you might find this really useful if you want to add social features to your Dapp. So if you want to add social features to your Dapp today, you may have to resort to using a centralized social network. But there exists a really great social network in the world that is fully decentralized, and that is the combination of all of our address books on all of our phones. And so this decentralized PKI allows you to tap into that social network, which allows you to add social features to your Dapp in a fully decentralized way. Celo also has a stablecoin platform that allows for the creation of multiple stable assets that are all backed by the same over-collateralized crypto asset reserve. And so this means if you're building a DeFi Dapp, then of course you can use this to use a currency like Celo dollars, which is pegged to the US dollar. But I think more interestingly, you can actually pay for the gas needed by that DeFi app in that same stable currency. And this is because Celo supports paying for gas in multiple currencies, including ERC20 style tokens, which means that, of course, you can also pay for gas using our stablecoins. So this is pretty neat. And earlier this week, we launched our Celo's Mobilefirst SDK. And so this SDK is all about making it really, really easy for you guys, Dapp developers, to build Dapps that are native mobile apps. And it's composed of two pieces, Contract Kit and Dapp Kit. Contract Kit allows you to access all of Celo's system smart contracts, which includes that identity protocol that I just described and that stable coin that I just described. And then Dapp Kit allows you to integrate with Celo's mobile wallet, which sits side by side with your app on your target user's mobile phone. And so let's look at DappKit a little bit closer. It's built with Expo in mind. And so for those of you who are new to Expo, Expo is a really amazing tool set that allows you to build React native applications for your mobile phones really easy. So if you're a web developer and you know React, but you've never done any mobile development, Expo makes it incredibly easy to build native mobile apps for both iOS and Android. And it actually makes it really easy to get started too. So rather than having to create your own app bundle and somehow ship it to your phone and run it while you're developing, Expo actually lets you scan a QR code and lets you use their native app to run your JavaScript or TypeScript code to test out your application while you're developing it on their app. This is really great because they have a lot of great libraries that you can use, and they have hot reloading out of the box for free, so you can really easily iterate and just change things in your editor and see those changes be reflected on the mobile phone instantly. Next, DappKit has a really interesting and easy to use deep link API that lets you query the user's mobile wallet to access their account, their verified phone number. Celo supports verified phone numbers. And also to send transactions that need to be signed. And so your Dapp never has to worry about key management, similar to MetaMask, only the only difference is the signing happens on another mobile application running on the same phone. And finally, we're working really hard to add light client support here. And so the Celo mobile wallet is already running a light node that uses those syncing features I just described. So it's already sitting on the phone. It's already connecting to the protocol in a fully trustless manner. And so we're working hard to allow other Dapp developers build Dapps that can connect to this light client node and actually, for the first time, be real decentralized Dapps, capital D Dapps, without requiring kind of a third-party trusted node or without requiring you to install a node at home. So what does all of this get you? What is the end result? We have a demo here that we recorded earlier today, and one of the engineers on the C Labs team built this in just a couple of hours last week. Again, building anything with Expo is really, really easy. And so it's a saving circles application. And so for those of you who don't know, a saving circle is an agreement between a group of people. It's actually been around for a while, maybe 100, maybe even longer years. Typically, people who don't have access to bank accounts will agree on some saving goal and then come up with a way to collectively save money. We saw this frequently, or a number of times, in Nyarugusu refugee camp in Western Tanzania, where we went to perform user research upon the invitation of the UN World Food Program. And the basic idea is like this: you have a group of people, they can be friends, they can be strangers. They all agree that they want to save to hit some goal. Maybe they want to buy a phone or some appliance. And they all meet monthly or weekly, and they put in a little bit of money into a pot. And when that pot is enough to hit their target, then one person in the group withdraws all of the funds, goes and buys what they're looking for, and then they repeat this until every person in the group was able to withdraw the funds fully. And there's an interesting variant of this, where people who withdraw from the pot earlier pay a little bit more, and people who withdraw from the pot later receive some of those extra payments. And so this is, in a way, an easy way for people to either borrow money easily or lend money and earn some interest from that without having to rely on a bank. And so it's an interesting idea, and it's especially interesting in the world of decentralized applications because people already have these mental models for what these saving circles are, and arguably these are the people who could benefit from decentralized applications. And so we wanted to build an example app that already fits their mental model. And so this is what it looks like. Again, this is just a really quick thing we put together. So here's a Dapp. It's a native app. And we're about to pull out the $30. It's Nam's turn to withdraw all of the funds. And he pressed the withdraw button. That took him to the Celo wallet to confirm the transaction. And then the Celo wallet took him right back. And because we're running proof of stake, the transaction settled really quickly. And so the whole thing looked pretty much like what you would expect in a centralized application, but this is fully decentralized. There's a couple of things to point out too. So this list of members, these are members of folks who are part of this savings circle. And none of these names are on the chain. These names are pulled entirely from your contact list. So all that's on the chain are the hashes of these people's phone numbers. They verify these phone numbers. They put them on the chain. And then by hashing all of the contacts in your phone book, you can map them back to people that you know and add names to them. And so you can create social experiences with people's names without actually relying on any existing social networks. And so that was just a little test app. We actually have the code available for you to play around with on our docs.celo.org website. But we're also working on a staking app. So Celo is a proof of stake network after all. And so people have to secure the network by staking our native currency, Celo Gold. And they can also participate in governance. And we wanted to build a mobile-first experience for letting them do that. And so we want to lead by example. And so we're working on this Celo staking app. We are excited to hopefully soon offer a feature where people can just kick up their feet, sit on the couch, and actually participate in shaping the future evolution of a decentralized protocol right there from their phone. So as I mentioned, if you're interested in learning more, please do check out our docs. You just have to visit docs.celo.org. We have a whole section for the SDK, and it has a lot of description, a lot of example code, little snippets, as well as that example application. And if you're a small team and you're interested in building a Dapp, then you might be interested to hear that Polychain, one of Celo's earliest ecosystem participants, just earlier this week announced the Celo Ecosystem Fund. This is funded by folks like Andreessen Horowitz, obviously Polychain as well, and Celo. And so if you're interested in hearing more about opportunities for funding for building on top of Celo, I highly encourage you to either reach out to us or to Polychain directly. They're running the fund. And one way to do that could be to attend the joint Polychain and Celo event that's happening later today at 6:30. And so if you're interested, please take a photo of this QR code. It takes you to an Eventbrite link, which you can then RSVP from. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. Any questions? Yep.
Thanks for the presentation. Just a quick question in the example of the saving circle. So let's say you're operating in an environment where people are based in fiat cash money. How do you switch? How do you tokenize that cash? And how do you do the accountability? Do you know what I mean?
What do you mean by accountability?
So I'm contributing with a 10 ringgit note, right? And that has to be translated into that tokenized app, right? So do you have any mechanism whereby there's, for example, an admin or a person in charge, a trusted party, who collects the money, who gives a receipt like in the app, for example, saying you have deposited $10 fiat, and you know what I mean? Because I think one of the issues that we have is where it has to be mobile friendly because those guys are mobile friendly, but it also has to be an easy onboarding for a fiat cash based population.
Yeah, so I think I understand the question. So I think you might be imagining that Celo dollars is fiat backed, like maybe USDC. And the way to think of Celo dollars and all other stablecoins on the Celo platform is that they're more like DAI, in that they're backed by other crypto assets, usually over collateralized. And so you don't need a receipt of some kind that's tied to some fiat sitting somewhere. And so you wouldn't need that kind of receipt. In terms of on and off ramps, you know, Celo is a decentralized protocol, so that's not something that we deal with directly, but we have a lot of partners that are very excited by Celo and who are looking at enabling those use cases.
So we're actually out of time. Thank you, Marek.